Hello and welcome to Mini Course, your gateway to bite-sized learning. Today's lesson is all about identifying the variables. We will cover the definition and identification steps with a practical illustration. Let's get started. What is a variable? A variable is something whose value or name or property or characteristic, which is yet to be known, is sought by the researcher. It is called a variable because of the possibility that the value or name or property or characteristic for it may vary from each data source. When what is looked for in a variable is an attribute such as type, name, brand, gender, and educational qualification which classifies respondents, responses, or objects, it is categorized as qualitative. Numerals, which are used to classify objects rather than to measure them, are usually qualitative. On the other hand, when what is to be found out as a variable is a value such as 5%, 10, 1/2, and 6 kilograms, which indicates how much or how many of a given property or characteristic a respondent or an object has, it is termed as quantitative. When a variable is one whose value or attribute can be determined only after the value and/or attribute of another variable has been known, and/or whose value or attribute is presumed to change as another variable changes, it is classified as dependent. The variable whose value or attribute is to be known, so that the value and/or attribute of another variable can be determined, and whose change in value or attribute is presumed to influence the change in value and/or attribute of another variable, is described as independent. It is to be noted that the independent variable does not require the existence or presence of a dependent variable. Variables in descriptive studies are independent variables. The customary input variable or output variable in the researches, using the input-output transformation model, is called a regular variable. The process or throughput variable that sometimes comes in between the input variable and the output variable is called an intervening variable. Here are the steps in identifying the variables. 1. Write the general problem, title, and specific problems of the study. 2. Analyze the statements and identify the words or expressions whose value and/or characteristics are to be determined. These words or expressions are the variables. 3. Find out which are the independent and dependent variables. Here's an example. You may read it quietly. This ends our lesson for identifying the variables. In our next video, we will provide you with simple concepts on the term hypotheses. Don't miss out. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you for taking the time to learn with us in our mini course.